Hello everyone, it's 1 p.m. Eastern, and that means it's time to begin our 60th CoCoRaHS Weather Talk webinar. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Noah Newman, filling in for our regular host, Henry Regis, who is traveling in the Midwest today. Also on the call is our founder, Nolan Duskin, and he might pipe in towards the end with a question or two for our guest as well. We are coming to you live from the Colorado Climate Center at Colorado State University in Fort Collins, Colorado on this early, frigid November morning. We are recording today's broadcast for future viewing. In fact, all of our past webinars are viewable via the CoCoRaHS website or our YouTube channel. Finally, all of our Weather Talk webinars are sponsored by generous donations of listeners like you. Today, we will be finding out more about one of the terrific weather and climate organizations out there. It's the NWA, which is the National Weather Association. Many of you might already be familiar with it, or might even be members of this great organization. You'll find out a lot more about the NWA in the webinar ahead. We are very fortunate to have with us today the NWA's current president, Gail Hartfield. Gail's day job is that of a senior forecaster at the National Weather Service office in Raleigh, North Carolina. She's originally from Muskegon, Michigan, and is a graduate of the University of Michigan, and has worked at the NWS office in Detroit prior to her position in Raleigh. Gail is married with 2 children. She enjoys running, hiking, kayaking, disc golfing, and of course, University of Michigan sports and the Detroit Tigers baseball team. We thank her for taking her time out of her busy schedule to present today's webinar. Gail, we welcome you today, and it's great to have you with us. Just a quick question right off the bat is, being from Muskegon, do you have any memories of good lake effect snow events that you remember over the years?
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me on here. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate everything the CoCoRaHS folks do. I mean, you guys, you're a really dedicated group, and I'm constantly impressed by how much data you give us as a weather service meteorologist. We really use every piece of information in what we do in constructing our forecasts and looking back and setting climate baselines. So we really do appreciate everything you do. Lake effect snow, we've had a lot off of Muskegon. I remember the late 70s, 77, 78 as being a pretty, and as a kid, it wasn't that big of an impact for me. It was more fun than anything else. I remember my dad grumbling having to scrape the snow off of the driveway. We had a lot of snow that year. I remember the snow banks would pile up at the end of the driveway, because this was before snow blowers, of course, so you had to actually go out and do it manually. I don't know how I got out of doing that. I think my brother got the worst end of that, but we had at least 10-foot snow banks. You would have to be very careful getting out of the driveway, because someone could be peeling around the corner. You would never see them, but I remember having a lot of fun in the snow. Obviously, once you get to be a little older and you have to drive in it, and it gets a little tedious, and that's why I moved to North Carolina, to get out of the snow. So.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Gail. And you can go ahead, and I think you'll have a button to take control. There it is. We can see your screen, and you're welcome to take it away.
Thank you so much. No, I appreciate it. I have been a member of the National Weather Association for a long time. Gosh, I think it's been about 93 or 94 when I really when I first got to Raleigh, and my boss at the time was one of the officers of the NWA, and he was very excited about it, and kind of spread that excitement to me, and I've been active in it ever since, and been so fortunate to be president. It's been a wonderful almost a year so far as president. It's been a wonderful experience, a growth experience for me, and I've watched the organization continue to grow and thrive. So I'm really relish the opportunity to tell you folks about it. And after I get done with all that, I'm gonna try to tell you some of what I think are going to be some of the weather innovations to be looking for in the next several years, so you can be on the lookout for fun things like that.
Great. Gail, real quick here, we're seeing your screen, but we're also seeing all the icons maybe from your, there it goes, they're gone. All right, you're set to go.
All righty. Thank you. So who is the NWA? Our mission statement is connecting operational meteorologists in pursuit of excellent excellence in weather forecasting, communication, and service. We embody all of those factors. First off, the operational meteorology, and that's kind of how the NWA got started. It's a member-led, all-inclusive 501c6 nonprofit, which is mumbo jumbo, basically saying it's a nonprofit professional association. It was a really grassroots organization. It was founded in 1975 with just 644 members. Pretty good for a grassroots organization, but we've obviously grown leaps and bounds since then. But what we're all about is operational meteorology and everything that comes with that. That includes the forecasting and warning services we provide to every person, everything in the country and internationally. The communication of weather information, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. That's becoming a very important aspect of what we do. A weather forecast, if people don't understand what it means, and what kind of action to take based on that forecast or warning, then it doesn't do much good. So we have to make sure we're communicating that properly. And service, I mean, what we do day in and day out is we take the science and we apply it to serve. We serve companies, we serve people, individuals, various groups who all have different purposes, and everyone has a different use of weather information. You may be wanting to take outdoor pictures, and you may consult the forecast wanting it to be kind of cloudy, overcast day, but not rainy. If you are someone who is interested in hydrology or drought, land management, maybe you want some rain, so you're looking forward for the rain. So a lot of people use our forecast differently, and I will touch on that a little bit later too. But so we were a pretty small group, founded in 1975, and I just want to touch on some of the things that were around in 1975. I was a kid. I kind of remember some of this stuff. The top left there, that's our very old computer system that we used in the National Weather Service. If anybody has ever visited a Weather Service office, you might recognize those big blue behemoths there. That was our monochrome display, and very, very low tech based on today's standards. A lot of the hand analyses you'll see there at the top was done by hand, and we still actually in my office we still do hand analyses of surface maps and the Fourier maps in my office. It really helps to get your hands dirty and kind of get a sense of what is really going on in the weather. You really need to have that analysis to do so. Yeah, I put up a picture. If any of you are familiar with the Edmund Fitzgerald, this is the actually anniversary of the day that it left and met its fate the following day. But you can see there some of the weather forecast. That is actually David Letterman doing his being a TV weather person at the time. But you know, very low tech graphics back then, basically where they were stickers that were stuck on maps, and very low-tech satellite imagery, although at the time it was a boon to have the satellite imagery. I mean, you had a picture every hour, and we were lucky to have it, right? So very low-fi kind of stuff. And you can see that some of the damage pictures there from an Omaha tornado that occurred back in 1975. So basically, when the Weather Service or when the National Weather Association began, fairly low-tech things going on, and now transferred to today. And we're a much bigger organization. We've got a lot of cool things to work with, and I'll detail that some in a little bit. There you see a photo of a National Weather Service office. The computers are a little bit smaller, a little more powerful. We have better graphics for our TV meteorologists, and we have some pretty fancy satellite imagery to look at too. You can see there's the image of from our new GOES 16 satellite. So that's exciting. And we have nice color maps now, all drawn by computer and stuff. So real fancy stuff nowadays compared to what we had back in the mid-1970s. So we have about anywhere, we've ranged from about 2,000 to 3,200 members since the mid-90s. So we kind of surged, and we've kind of wavered in that little window of membership since the mid-90s. So it's been a wonderful organization to be part of and watch it continue to grow and thrive. we provide opportunities to share information and news, studies, anything, any concerns related to operational meteorology and weather communication and related fields. And this has presented for us an opportunity to do intersector networking. And what I mean by that is the ability for people in the National Weather Service to collaborate with TV meteorologists and other private sector meteorologists. We engage with military forecasters and social scientists as well. As I mentioned, the importance of weather communication and proper communication. So a lot of that is having to do with the social science and understanding how people use forecasts and warnings. So the ability to work with others in other sectors in meteorology has been wonderful for us. It's been one of my favorite parts of being in the organization. We do a lot of outreach and education and training initiatives to students, users of weather information in the general public, and that is done in part through a lot of avenues. We have journals, and we have had newsletters, and we have a webinar series that we do once a month as well. So we also have the chance to volunteer for leadership positions. Not everyone has the opportunity to become part of a committee and kind of serve the whole weather enterprise and really have a say in how the weather enterprise goes. And so this is providing an opportunity for folks to do that and have an opportunity to volunteer and be part of something bigger than themselves. And this is just a sample of what we can provide. And you don't need to be a meteorologist to join. You can join the National Weather Association, hear about all the great goings on in the worlds of severe storm warnings, tornado warnings, and watches, and severe weather, and winter weather, and hurricanes, and everything that we have to forecast operationally. You can be a part of this, and you don't need to be a meteorologist to join up. So here are all of our current NWA members, and you can see there are several all around the world. In Alaska, and we have a few in the middle of the ocean there. I'm sure those are on islands. I'm just kidding. But we do have a pretty good membership outside the U.S., and here's our membership in the CONUS, and pretty good representation as far as geographically speaking. We cut a pretty wide swath, and we're very proud of that. We want to represent all operational meteorologists from around various parts of the country and make sure that every climate regime is represented. And those were just our regular members. We have also a lot of student and retired members in active military, and those are obviously also scattered around the country. They're around the world and around the country as well. And there's the representation from the continental U.S. Just a snapshot of our membership. We do have about a third of us are broadcasters, or broadcast meteorologists. And about a little less than a quarter are government meteorologists, but we do represent a variety of sectors, the academic sector, students, other private sector, emergency managers, which has been, that's a growing aspect of our membership because they are very important as far as application of warnings and forecasts. And then the military, we're actively trying to get a little more of a military presence in the National Weather Association because that is a very important, obviously very important forecast group, and they do forecasting in the military, and it's been very crucial. So we want to try to get those folks represented in our organization, and then obviously we have a great contingent of retired folks who want to keep one foot in the science. So that's been wonderful to engage with them as well. So all the things that we provide, and I'll go through a little more detail of what some of these are. We do have the Journal of Operational Meteorology, and that is our latest journal. It is indexed, and I'll get into that, what that means. We have a newsletter, and we have that arrives in a regular newsletter format, and we're also provide some email content as well, so you can kind of a little more late-breaking news on the newsletter that you receive via email. We do have an annual meeting. We do sponsor a number of smaller meetings throughout the year, but our big shindig is the annual meeting, and in 2018, that will be in late August. We'll be in St. Louis. This last September, just a couple months ago, we had it in Anaheim, California, and that was a wonderful experience to be out there. But we try to move it around the country, so we have a good representation from various areas. So we're looking forward to late August in our meeting there. We do a seal of approval, both television and digital, and the digital is something that's kind of new for us. We wanted to provide some, well, I'm sure a lot of you are probably familiar with the television seal of approval. You might see that when you look at your TV broadcaster. You'll see the NWA, the National Association symbol there. What we're also providing is the digital, which is basically covering online content. So you can, we want to make it so you can trust what you see online. There's a lot of weather information online, and you might see random Facebook pages with some weather information, and we want to inform the public what sites are good quality and have passed muster as far as providing good quality weather information digitally. That means on Facebook pages or on web pages of various kinds, people who have their own private forecasting that they do. So we also have a monthly webinar series, which has been covering a wide variety of topics. A lot of case studies, webinars on weather decision support, societal response and use of our forecast, how weather is communicated, and career success. We've done a number of webinars for students and for early career professionals, kind of to help those folks kind of get their get going in their career and help them to succeed. So we've provided the webinars for that as well. Social media channels, we have a web page. We provide advocacy on issues that are important to members. And one example of this, there was a drive to sell a bandwidth frequency for the general use of the private sector, so they could use it for broadcasting, expanding communication networks. And the problem with that was it was right next to where the new satellite transmission was going to go out. So this was important for us and for our members to make sure that everyone was educated on the fact that the sale was going on, and that anyone who needs to make use of new satellite information and the frequency at which it's transmitted is aware that this is going on and could potentially hinder the receipt of satellite information. So that's been one of those things that we've been very vocal about, providing input from the operational meteorology community on that. I'll bring up a little bit the NWA Foundation, which is for student educator support. We do provide local chapter support. We do provide an awards program as well. And again, the opportunity to network and collaborate, contribute, lead, and grow as forecasters, and that's been very important. So starting off, the Journal of Operational Meteorology, and it covers topics relevant to all aspects of operational meteorology, various time and space scales. And like I said, we've done published papers on improving forecasting and warning techniques, verification of various events and case studies, applications of observations and models to improving forecasting warnings, climatological studies, and interdisciplinary studies. So you can see just a handful of the papers there that we've done recently. So a variety of topics, and on all of which are pertinent to operational meteorologists, and also they're just kind of interesting papers. They're not written so highbrow that the average person can't understand them. So it's kind of nice, if you want to read a little bit more about in more detail about a severe thunderstorm or a tornado event, you can find that here, and it's a rigorous. It is a peer-reviewed journal, so it's on par with other meteorology journals, but it is now it's indexed, which means that it's basically the reflection of its reputation as a reliable source of high quality, rigorously reviewed content, and we've been reviewing for years these papers, as everyone who publishes in a scientific journal will do, but it's nice to have it indexed now. That basically means that it makes it easier for people to search for and find these rigorously reviewed and high quality works that are in here. It is open access. It's free of charge to read. So if you go on our webpage, nwaf.org, you can see these articles for free, and it's kind of nice. There's no paywall or anything. So we have an average of 18 articles we publish per year. We're already at 13. I think even since I've put together this presentation, we've got a couple more coming out. So One of the benefits of having this electronic is that we can incorporate satellite loops and things like that that you might not be able to get from a paper copy. And I know some folks were kind of used to getting the paper copies of some of our previous journals that we've had, but this has been very nice as far as allowing us to do a better job at allowing folks to communicate their studies and do a good, thorough job of it at demonstrating the research that they have worked on. We also provide the NWA newsletter, and again, this is a traditional newsletter in a PDF format, but we are transitioning to more frequent content, and this will be provided in email every couple weeks, more frequently if needed. One of the great things about that is it enables us to put in some really current weather events and up-to-the-minute news, member news, any developments or anything that impacts operational meteorology. We do provide profiles of television seal of approval holders, and I'll talk about that just in a minute here. Scholarship and job opportunities, which is nice for folks kind of looking to, move on or maybe looking to expand their education opportunities. We detail a lot of our committee activities and accomplishments, provide local chapter news, professional development opportunities that are out there, news about meetings that we co-sponsor and other in our annual meeting, and our association finance information if people are interested in that. So this is just a sampling of some of the things that are in our newsletter. It's pretty overstuffed, but provides a lot of good up-to-the-minute information for folks. Okay, our NWA television seal of approval. This is basically, it sets a bar for TV meteorologists in particular and radio that they're telling folks that you can trust this person. This person has undergone some rigorous training and scrutiny and in both content and presentation. So looking at the meteorology of what the person produces, and they do have to do a written test, and then they go through an on-air evaluation to check to make sure they're communicating the weather information at the best possible, highest level. So it's a pretty rigorous program. I think it takes most folks at least a year to go through it, if not more. And it requires constant recertification, so you have to get continuing education units to keep up your seal. We have sent out, I think since I've done this presentation, we've had at least one or two more in the last couple weeks. So we're approaching 1,000 seals earned all time, which is wonderful. I mean, it's I love every time I turn on the TV and I see the seal up there. It just it sets the bar that they've achieved a level of accomplishment that sets the bar very high. So we're very proud of that. Our website is nwaf.org. We've got a lot of good information there. We've just transitioned to a new website in the last year and a half, roughly. So we've got some, we're still filling in a few things here, but all the information about how to join some of our meeting information, all of our publications, including our past publications, are there. Further information on the television and the digital seal of approval, and details about some of our committees and some of the work that we do, and some of the meetings and some of the things that we co-sponsor. So it's really worth checking out. It's all the good stuff on there. I had mentioned our webinar series, and we just did one, which was very successful with the heads of the forecast offices, the National Weather Service forecast offices in Houston and in Corpus Christi, did a wonderful webinar detailing Hurricane Harvey's challenges, including not just what happened, but some of the challenges they had and the offices there had, trying to stay up and working and trying to fulfill the mission while still worrying about their own families and friends and relatives and their own communities. So it was a very well received webinar and is available online. So this is just one example of one of our webinars. So we've had several of them have detailed other storms that we've, prominent storms Several others have provided information to students on how to conduct interviews, how to put together a good quality resume for various jobs in the weather enterprise. So a very wide variety of topics that we have, and we have more ideas than we have time, and I'm sure eventually we may have to go to something twice a month, but right now we're just on once a month webinars, but they're definitely worth checking out. Some of them are available on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and then some of them you have to be a member to view. They're via GoToWebinar, so you have to be a member to view them. So it's definitely worth checking out. A lot of good content there. I mentioned our YouTube channel, and there it is there. We do have a very wide and very active social media group. We are on Instagram and Snapchat for those folks who are on there. Obviously, we're on Facebook and Twitter, and then, as I mentioned, YouTube. So those are all our handles there, and I think you should be able to search for National Weather Association on any of these platforms and be able to locate us pretty easily. But we do a lot of information sharing on there as well. So we don't necessarily have to wait for the paper newsletter or even the email content, and that's coming every couple weeks, but also just being able to provide quick, short bursts of information on various weather phenomena. So please, if you're on any of these social media channels, go ahead and check us out and see what you think. It's a good way to engage with us, too. It's one of the things that we wanted to do, I wanted to do as president this year, was to really increase our engagement among members. And that's the important part of being part of the National Weather Association and part of the operational weather community is being able to share information and interact with each other. And obviously, social media has been wonderful for that. But tailoring it to weather information, and anyone on this call is more than welcome to engage with us. I mean, anybody interested in weather is welcome to be part of the National Weather Association. We started last year, we started the NWA Foundation, and what this is a 501c3 nonprofit, and what that means is contributions to this are tax deductible, which is important for people who want to donate. We have a number of, basically the function of the NWA Foundation is to provide scholarships and grants to students in meteorology and related fields, and along with that, providing science educators with grants to support weather education. And we have for many years, we've been providing science teachers with scholarships for them to start do weather projects, set up weather stations in schools. Hundreds and hundreds of these projects have been funded since the National Weather Association was founded. So it's really wonderful. We've gotten some great input back from the teachers who are so appreciative of what we can provide for them. But the great benefit of the new foundation is it's all tax deductible. So we have a couple of programs that we do. We do a scholarship golf outing at our annual meeting. So that's always a good time, and that helps to replenish the money to pay for grants and scholarships and some of these teacher grants and student grants. And we also sponsor at something called the Weather Ready Fest. And it's been going on for, I think we've done 3 of these so far. It's at the annual meeting, but it's a free day-long event, and it's basically a celebration of weather. We have booths, people coming in with booths. We have vendors, people who have weather-related businesses. We've had the last Weather Ready Fest, we had demonstrations of water rescues from water rescue groups, various flood support groups, things like that. So any outfit that isn't even remotely has to do with weather, we've had them come in and do our Weather Ready Fest. We have songs. We have Nick Walker from the Weather Channel, who's also a great singer. He does weather songs at the Weather Ready Fest, so that's very fun. He's done many shows there. We have raffles going on. So it's just basically a celebration of weather and to try to inform people about weather safety. I mean, that's a big issue as far as making sure people are weather ready. But we do it in a fun way so that people can really learn about the weather and the impacts and what actions they should take while still having a good time. So we will have another one of these in St. Louis. We're already planning it. So when we're in St. Louis in late August of next year, that we'll be there. So all these help fund the NWA Foundation and provide the grant money for those folks to help out students and educators. We have 53 local chapters located around the country, and we provide organizational and financial management assistance to them, so they can basically be able to run and function and as a good, healthy group. And a number of them, they give out their own scholarships to folks to either attend the annual meeting or just to further their own education. So, and then they have guest speakers and things like that. So it's really nice, again, that we're able to help out the local chapters from around the country and help to foster and educate and nurture that next generation of operational forecasters. As I mentioned, my favorite part of the National Weather Association is being able to work with others in the weather enterprise. And I've been with the National Weather Service for a long time, and over the years I've had the opportunity to engage in other aspects of the weather enterprise, private companies, people in just related groups that are related to weather, emergency management, and obviously TV broadcasters. But this really makes it easy, and you really, by learning what everyone else in the weather enterprise does, it really has helped me as a forecaster. I can see other perspectives, and just getting that network and really getting to know folks who are in weather, but in different sectors of the weather enterprises has been wonderful. It's my favorite part, working together with these folks side by side. You can see in the bottom there all of our committees we've got, and it covers a wide range. Obviously, aviation meteorology, and we have a wonderful. All these committees are wonderful. They all have some great folks doing some really good work, and they're all volunteers. So they're kind of doing this on their own time through their own goodwill because they like doing it. As I said, we have a robust awards committee, our broadcast meteorology committee. That is the group that does the evaluations and the testing for the SEAL programs that we have, both the broadcast and digital. We have a great diversity committee, an education committee, local chapters to help out those folks, membership and marketing. So basically, membership and marketing basically deals with trying to find out our members' needs and making sure we're meeting those needs and finding out what they want from us so we can provide it. Professional development, that is one of the groups that leads the webinars every month and it helps us develop professionally, obviously. We have publications committee who they handle the journals and the newsletter. The remote sensing committee, and they deal with a lot of the radar and satellite issues and items and news that comes up regarding those things. So we have a really good, excellent social media committee, and they do a great job sharing weather information on social media networks. Societal impacts group, and that's becoming more and more important. As I said, trying to figure out how folks are impacted by weather information and what actions do we want them, we as operational meteorologists and warning forecasters want them to take, and making sure that people stay safe and that their property and lives are kept safe. Specialized operations, that deals with a lot of different marine community, the space weather. They deal with a lot of different aspects of the weather community. So in the specialized operations committee. And strategic planning basically sets the course for us as a group. And weather analysis and forecasting, they're the folks who deal with they help communicate information about different forecasting techniques, new things that come up, modeling, new techniques. So they help communicate that and also help run the webinar, the professional development webinar series. So being able to be on one of these committees is a wonderful opportunity to contribute to innovations in the weather industry and be a part of, as I said before, something bigger than yourself. And you stay current with the latest happenings, and you can hone your leadership skills, and you can help address and serve the member needs. As I said, we're an organization that's built to serve our people, and we want to make sure that we do that the best way possible. So I hope this has been a nice overview for everyone on the National Weather Association. I'll have the website up there at the end, but I encourage you to check it out and join if you are so moved to do so. It is a wonderful group. Like I said, I've been with it for a long time, and it's a great, very practical group, and we are delighted to have members coming in and helping us serve the operational meteorology community better via input from everyone. So, well, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. Now I've gone through the National Weather Association overview. I wanted to communicate to you folks the weather innovations that I see coming in the next 10 to 25 years, and we'll see if I'm right. We can always resurrect this in 10 years and rewatch this and see if I end up being correct or not. But I'm always thinking of, like, where is the weather enterprise going? What are we doing, and where are we going next? I don't think that, and you remember all those old pictures that I showed you back from the mid-70s, I don't think that we envisioned at that time the radar network that we would have and the satellite capabilities that we would have, and how we can get down to individual communities, warning individual communities about tornadoes approaching them. Back then, that wasn't even possible. I mean, if you got a lead time of a couple minutes on a tornado, you were lucky. And nowadays, we can get 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes easily lead time for a tornado warning. So I don't know if that was really foreseen back then. And so I'm always kind of thinking, what can we do? What do I see coming up in the next 10 years, 20 years that might be the next great innovation in weather? So I kind of want to go through this, and this is not in any particular order here. So first off, shiny new satellites. And some of you folks may have heard the GO16. I mentioned it earlier, but for us weather geeks, this is a really big deal. To be able to have this kind of capability is really revolutionary. And I heard some people refer to it as basically moving from black and white TV to color high def, and the changes that it's making for us, and especially for me as a warning forecaster, we can get these images so quickly. And before, you had to wait 15 to 30 minutes at least to get a satellite picture, and now with this GO16 and all the capabilities that are coming up after it, we're getting satellite imagery very quickly. I mean, we're getting it in a matter of just a couple of minutes, or even less. So basically, the GO16. Let me walk backwards here. The GOES-1, which is the very first really geostationary operational environmental satellite, that's what that stands for, was launched in 1975. So right when the NWA was getting started. And now we're up to 16. It was GOES-R, and now it became GOES-16 once it became partially operational. It's still going through evaluations, but we get much more frequent, higher resolution imagery and many more products. And these different products help us interpret features better. You see there in the bottom right, just an example of what one satellite picture can give us. And this is, and it takes a while to get used to all the colors, but you can basically use the different colors as telling you different things about it, the different characters of the clouds and what level they're at, whether they're high clouds mainly consisting of ice, or whether they're low clouds. The top left there, you see the blue image there with the blue there. That is basically showing you some fog. And so the satellite is actually reading this and telling us, okay, this is really low level thick clouds, and this is fog. So all these pictures here, we have the top right there. You can see the global scan. We get a global scan every half hour. We can get a picture of the entire Earth. So that's wonderful. I mean, it's really great for helping vulnerable communities as well. I mean, places that maybe didn't get the best satellite imagery now, we have the capability of giving them really high resolution and quickly scanning imagery. So that's been been wonderful. And so I see that as the next thing that's coming in. We're going to start getting we have what's coming up is the GOES-S and T series, and those will be coming up in 2018 and 2020. And I think we as operational meteorologists, we're just starting to determine the potential for all this abundance of data. Different uses, ocean current detection, aviation icing threat, volcanic ash tracking. These are the things that probably most people don't pay attention to on a day-to-day basis, but for us, it's going to be to get more into this data and discover all the data that this is producing for us. So we're really looking forward to this as a big boon for us. And I wanted to give you guys some nice eye candy here. This is fairly recently, earlier this month, some storms just south of St. Louis, and you can kind of see the bright white clouds kind of pop up there out of almost nothing. You can kind of see as it starts, the loop kind of starts, you can kind of see the front there, but the storms developed along that front. And then right behind it, you can see some low clouds right behind that. So those are some of the really low gray clouds that came in behind the front within the cooler air. And you can see, even on top of that, you can see some higher clouds moving more quickly above the blue areas. And then those are higher clouds coming in from the west. And you also notice there, you can see the city lights. And that's kind of a cool thing. We can see all the lights of all the cities, and that helps us better assess where storms are, especially heavy rain producing storms in an urban area might be particularly threatening for flash flooding. So there's a lot to see here. I could stare at this for a long time. So there's definitely a lot of information to look at. So here's another little bit here of cool imagery. And this image, you can see kind of in upstate New York and in New England, you kind of see it's a little bit reddish. Those are the trees changing, so that you can see the colors, the fall colors coming in. Especially when you can see the fog early in the day, and that kind of burns off. So you can kind of see there where the trees and where the leaves are changing. So where fall has come, and that's from last month. This is another we call geocolor imagery, which basically allows us to kind of see the land features a little bit better. What this is are wildfires burning the Pacific Northwest, and you can see there through the loop all the wildfires going on. This is from September of this past year. So we saw some similar imagery also with the California fires, but this is just very pronounced, and especially in areas that are very remote. We can really use this information to see these fires that are in the middle of the wilderness and help contain them. So they've been wonderful for forestry people. So yeah, as I said, we're just now getting into what we can get from this satellite information, what great information we can get. And this is just one example of that. And finally, I wanted to show, this is Hurricane Maria, and this is just an amazing, it's frightening to see, but you can really see the sheer power of the storm. You can see the eye of it there, and if you look carefully, you can see little swirls kind of moving around inside the eye wall, and that's where the particularly damaging winds are coming from, or these little waves kind of coming around through the eye wall. So it's really breathtaking and horrifying at the same time to look at some of this very high resolution imagery from some of these awfully destructive storms that we have had this year. Okay, moving on to the next thing. Again, no particular order. New and better computer models. We've been seeing computer models really just getting better and higher resolution and providing different kinds of information for years. But I really think we're going to start seeing this really explode. We're seeing faster computers, and we're seeing different groups. It used to be just the government was the only one that had the computing power to run computer models. Well, now we've got private companies doing it. We have research groups running models. Everybody is running a computer model, it seems like. So, and that's great for the weather enterprise. It really is. you can see here some of the imagery, and I do have the links up at the top, so you can kind of check some of these out yourself. On the right there, that's just an example of from the high resolution ensemble forecast for 2-meter temperatures, and that basically is kind of a snapshot from what is called an ensemble, which means basically with an ensemble, you take one model and you change a little something in it and run it again, and then you change another little something and run it again. And what you'll find is you'll get it kind of homing in on a particular solution. And you can see what the most likely solution is by running all these. It's not always 100% correct, but it's better than running one model with one input of data. If you kind of adjust it a little bit, change the input, and run it again, you can come up with a slightly different solution. And then you can see what once you do that several times, you can kind of get an idea of what some of the more likely solutions are from this. So that's an ensemble mean, which is basically the average of the ensemble members, which member is a model that was run with an adjusted condition. So you can see there what the 2-meter temperature is, what the model is depicting them looking like. On the top left there, that is from one model called it's another ensemble model run by the National Center for Atmospheric Research, or NCAR. And that is the 48-hour accumulated precipitation. And your eyes are drawn to down there in Texas. And this is from Harvey. This is just one block. Harvey's rainfall lasted more than 48 hours. This is just one chunk of 48-hour time. And you can see that it has gone well over the block on the scale there of 12 inches. So it obviously rained a lot more than 12 inches. It reached the peak of what the color scale had set for it just in that 48-hour period. And down there on the bottom left is another model run by weather.us, a private company, and that is basically showing the coverage of low clouds, and that's great for aviation purposes. If you're a pilot, especially a pilot of small aircraft, maybe you have a small aircraft and you want to fly up to Virginia Beach or something for the day. Well, you can look at this and say, there's a pretty good chance we're going to have some low clouds. Maybe I'll rethink this. So we're seeing more computer models with different, very specific tasks and very specific information that it's providing. And here are just a few more here. And again, I've got the links there at the top, so you can check it out. The top left there is the high resolution rapid refresh forecast, and that's that particular image that you've got there is the ceiling forecast, basically the base of the clouds above you. So you can see there are very low cloud bases over northeast North Carolina, and then from the mountains extending back west through the mid-Mississippi Valley and into the plains. So pretty good swath of low clouds in that area. We have another, so the bottom left there is the weather research and forecast model. And that is an open source model, and a lot of folks have tailored that and tweaked it for their own purposes. This particular one's run by the National Severe Storms Laboratory, and it basically gives you a forecast radar, and that's what you see there. And that's not an actual radar, that's just a forecast radar. So you can kind of get a sense of what the storms might look like coming into a certain area. The bottom right there is another ensemble product run by the Storm Prediction Center, and that's showing you the probability of measurable precipitation at a snapshot in time. So you can kind of see there, well, maybe one computer model has rain and one computer model doesn't, and so this basically gathers a bunch of those models together and says, okay, 90% of the models have it raining over southern Ohio at this time. So you can get a sense on making your decisions based on that instead of based on one computer model entirely. And on the top right there, that is basically a 4-week forecast. So this was taken earlier this year. This is from the Climate Prediction Center, and they do longer range forecasts. And so this is basically giving us a hint that most of the continental U.S. is going to be fairly warm in the last week of November. And again, this is very broad brush, basically saying it's going to be kind of a little warmer than usual. You can't get too specific that far out, but it's an interesting new computer model and something that we're looking at refining. And these are exactly the kind of things that we'll see getting better over the coming years. Is computer models getting better and faster and providing more specific and more higher quality and accurate information. Okay, better warnings. This is my next thing here. We're already experimenting in the National Severe Storms Laboratory, and you can see the web addresses there. They're experimenting with a couple different things called, one called FACTS, Forecasting a Continuum of Environmental Threats, and something called Warn on Forecast. And basically, it is something that's going to enable us to kind of marry the radar information with high resolution forecast information. So you'll see a warning, a radar imagery that shows you a tornado, for example, on the bottom left there. And what that will do is it uses a rapidly refreshing high resolution model to try to determine where that's going to go, and it updates all the time. So you can kind of get a little bit better, more accurate warnings. And if you look at the bottom right there, you'll see in the hatched area, that is, and this is a tornado in Oklahoma in May of 2013. And you can see the track there, and you can see the box there, which is the warning that went out for it. And it's good warning. It covered the entire storm, but you can see how much of the area was warned that was not affected. And that's through no fault of the meteorologist. We want to make sure that we account for deviations in storm motion, but it's important to only warn for places that we think are going to be seriously affected. Otherwise, people get fatigued and they start to not believe us, things like that. So we want to get more refined in our forecast and get a little more accurate and only warning for those areas that are really under the gun. So we should be seeing better warnings coming out over the next several years. Next item I want to talk about, embracing the app culture. A lot of us get our forecast weather information from weather apps, or maybe we'll go online or look at the evening news, and we will look at a picture of a cloud and a temperature. Well, sometimes that's all we want. Sometimes, we want to see what's the high going to be today and what is it going to kind of be like. So we'll open up our app or flip on the TV and we'll get some quick information. But then there are many times where you obviously want more detailed forecasts when you need it. You want to know exactly, is it going to rain on my picnic? Is it going to be cloudy or sunny for my ball game that I'm attending? So that's when you want the really detailed information. So we as operational forecasters are going to be getting better and better at that, of providing a variety of weather information to everyone. So if you just want to know what is going to be the high temperature today, and is it going to be generally cloudy or generally sunny or cold or hot, you can get that information. But if you want the detailed stuff there at the bottom right, that's the National Weather Service forecast. We do hourly forecasts of temperature, humidity, wind, everything, sky cover, every hour out to 7 days. And so that kind of information, you might want to know exactly at a certain hour, what is it going to be like? And that's the kind of thing you can get from there. But then you can get the quick forecast when you need it. So we as operational meteorologists are going to have to get better at providing the quick general forecast when you want it and more detailed forecast when you need it, and basically providing a forecast and warning information that fits your needs at any given time. And finally, one of the things that we're going to be putting more and more focus on social science in the operational meteorology community. And a lot of us, we were trained in the science, a lot of physics and chemistry and math, and really knowing the atmosphere and how it works. It's a giant fluid, it's heated unevenly, it's rising and falling and swooping and going at every different level. So it's a difficult thing to get a handle on, and why even computer models have a tough time with forecasting. But now we're moving more into the social science, and as I alluded to earlier, in order for a forecast to have meaning, it needs to be used and applied. It's really not useful until somebody is using it and applying it. So we need to know how people are using forecast and warning information, and it involves a few things: sociology, understanding how people make decisions, the economics, what factors go into people making the decisions that they do. Is it an economic factor, or is it something else? And communicating these in the proper way so that people can take the correct action. We constantly, we put out our flash flood warnings, and we tell people turn around, don't drown, and yet we still lose so many people every year. It's one of the greatest weather killers is flash floods, and whenever we hear about somebody who does not make it in one of our flash flood warnings, it's disheartening, because we tell people, turn around, don't drown, and that your car can be swept away in just a few inches of water. But the decision-making process that people make when they encounter warnings is we still don't fully understand it, and people make different decisions based on different things. Some people might be in a hurry and they figure it's more important they get to where they're going on time, and so they can't turn around and they have to go through the floodwaters, and then maybe they don't make it, or maybe people have to get to someone. So it's a matter, and that's just one example of, if you get a tornado warning, do you take action right away? We found that most people actually don't. They tend to go outside and look to see if they can spot the tornado outside. They go through their own assessment process of what their risk is, and what will it cost them to take action, and what will it cost them to not take action. That is true for evacuations during tropical cyclones, a tornado coming, lightning. If a thunderstorm's coming, you're just finishing up your softball game, do you quickly finish it, or do you seek a safe shelter? You know, we make these decisions all the time, and so we as operational forecasters need to do a better job of, and need to learn more about how people make decisions, and so how we can work with that information to make better forecasts and warnings for everybody. And again, that wraps up everything that I have, and I hope you enjoyed it. And again, we really appreciate all that you do. From the National Weather Association, we really appreciate everything that you folks do and your observations every day. And putting on my National Weather Service hat, we really appreciate it. We really do use all of your information. We construct daily maps of rainfall every day. We use it to cross-check our radar information and check our water resources. It's very important for our drought assessment. So. Thank you again for everything you do, and thank you all for your time today.
Gail, thank you so much. That was fantastic, and thanks for the kind words about CoCoRaHS as well. We appreciate that. As we give folks a chance to start typing in a question or two, and those of you who have already typed in a question, you don't have to repeat it, but for those who are going to type in a question, if you want to also add your name and state, we can include that as well when we ask Gail the questions. You can see on the slide that's showing right now is Gail's email address, so if you have a question you'd rather write to her personally about, you can do that. And I'll also announce that after this is over, we're going to post a copy of her presentation, as well as linking, or several of the links that she mentioned will be on the WxTalk webinar page, specifically the webinar number 60, this particular one. So while we're waiting for a couple of questions to come in, I'll first open up the questions to Nolan. You're on the call here. Nolan, do you have anything you want to add or ask Gail?
Well, first of all, I seem to have let my membership lapse. I've been probably a member for 35 years. I must have forgotten to pay dues. I just got a notification that I was no longer a member. So I got to take some action. I take it, huh?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Here's my question, though, and you were addressing it just now. With all the amazing technology that has launched the field so high from the days I started, and by the way, I attended University of Michigan as an undergraduate as well, starting back in 1970. And satellite imagery, I still have copies of those first photos coming off of a photo processing machine that we thought was the highest of amazing technology at the time. But my question is, CoCoRaHS is a pretty low-tech function with just people and plastic rain gauges. And do you see, as all the rest of this technology keeps advancing at such a rapid rate, is there still a place for manual rain gauges and dedicated observers?
I would say 110%, maybe 120%. Yes, absolutely, there's a need for that. We have So the Weather Service, when I first got into the Weather Service, we did manual observations on a paper form, and we measured the rain gauge and measured temperature and everything, a sky assessment. And that has moved on to the ASOS units, which is the automated, and the AWOS units, which are all automated. And they do have a rain ticker in them. And from someone who deals with that data on a daily basis, it's fine a lot of the time, most of the time, but it cannot in any way replace a human going in and measuring it. That's still very important. And it is, you called it low tech, and you're right about that, but some of the low tech things are still extremely important. And the information that we get, again, putting on my Weather Service hat, is we take all that information and we put it into a graphical information system, or GIS program, and we create maps from that. And several of our surrounding forecast offices and forecast offices around the country do the same thing. And that is instrumental. Our hydrologist uses that to provide information to the water resources. So when you hear about that North Carolina is in a D0 drought or D1, and they're assessing what kind of water, whether we do need water restrictions, or what are the lake levels, and what does the Corps of Engineers need to do as far as increasing releases from the lakes or decreasing, and how much water will there be out west for folks. So all of that, that's where it starts. It starts from you folks reading your rain gauge and putting in that information. So the process chain is amazing of the influence that you observers have on very high tech things, water releases, water resources, and not to mention just evaluating our radar. I can't tell you how many times we've looked at radar rainfall estimates and then looked at the observations and see if they match up. We do it all the time, and sometimes that makes us adjust our radar so our radar performs better based on that QCing of information. So it's vitally important, and I cannot see a future where we will not need observations like the ones CoCoRaHS provides.
Hey, thanks.
All right. Oops. Gail, sorry?
No, I just said go blue.
Good for University of Michigan fans here. A couple questions are coming in. John wants to know if there's opportunities for volunteers in the NWA. What sort of duties would a volunteer be able to do?
Well, a lot of what you do when you sign up as a member is you get the opportunity to say what you're interested in. Like if let's say you have an affinity for aviation meteorology for some, or you've been doing marine forecasting, or you're just interested in it. You sign up and you indicate your interest. What that does is that goes into a volunteer database, and then next time a committee has an opening, they look to the volunteer list to see who has volunteered for a certain position on a committee. So if they have an opening, let's say we have term limits on our committees, so you can only serve for a few years. Somebody drops off, and then our committee chairs will look at that and see who might be volunteering for a certain task or a position on a committee. What exactly people would do, it really varies. Sometimes people bring their own ideas, the things that they want to work on. Sometimes you might join with an ad hoc committee for a certain task. And we have a number of those taking place right now. Like the professional development committee, you might come onto that committee and you might contribute to a webinar. Or you might help in evaluating a training, some piece of training module of some sort, and providing input on that. You could provide information on for our newsletter or for our more frequent content. If you are deeper in the science, you might want to write a journal article. You could do that. So there are a number of different tasks, and it really depends on what your interests are in those committees. And finding out what they do, and we love getting new blood and getting new people coming on the committee. It's amazing just bringing in a few more people with their new ideas and their new energy. We can really accomplish a lot. So I would say what tasks you would be working on would greatly depend on whatever committee it is that you decide to join up.
Thanks, Gail. A couple people have been writing in just wanting to make sure that we can show them some links to give them access to some of these cool satellite imagery products that you were showing. And so I'll just announce again that Gail will provide these links and we'll put them on the website along with a copy of her slides. So those will be available to everyone. Another question has come in from William. He says you didn't mention anything about air pollution data, and to him this is an important issue, especially with climate change. And this summer, the forest fires resulted in several unhealthy days in western U.S. Do you guys have anything related to air pollution data?
We do. We've had a number of journal articles on them over the years, and that would be our specialized operations committee deals with some of that, and has provided some newsletter items in the past. As you know, there are a lot of different aspects to operational meteorology, so that is just but one of them. But yes, we have had some in the past that have dealt with air pollution and air quality, absolutely. And okay. We do have a number of EPA members we count among our membership. So. Thanks.
Travis asks, where there are no local chapters, how do we start a local chapter? He's in Minnesota.
Well, very good. That we do have a link on our webpage as far as to link to our local chapters committee chair, and you can ask just ask who you would like to get it started, and we will provide you with the materials to get that started. It's as simple as that.
Great. John asks if what are the costs of membership, and do you happen to have a breakdown of the current NWA membership by gender and ethnicity? Is that stuff that's available?
We are actually we did that many years ago, and we're retooling it now, and we want to make sure that we do it correctly. So we are actually in the last 6 months we've been working on gathering that information specifically. As far as dues, I believe this year is $65. And so a lot of that goes to just the cost. Like I said, it's a nonprofit, so it all goes into the operations, our web services, our content we provide via email, our paper newsletter, the journal, and just maintaining what it is that we do. So it's a reasonable cost to me to be part of this community and to get all the wonderful things that you can get from this, including the webinar, which is becoming one of our more popular perks of being a member, is being able to do that and engaging in that.
And a quick follow-up on that, is there a list on the NWA site that lists who has received the seals of approval?
Yes, there is.
Good.
If you look under the seals, you'll see that, and I think that we try to update it. It may be from earlier this year. We don't constantly update it with every new one, but I believe every couple months we go about updating that list. But they should all be on there.
Great. I'm going to combine two questions from Kathleen and from James, who are asking similar questions. They participate with CoCoRaHS, they submit data every day, and they love helping out. And they're wondering if there's other things that they can do. For instance, James has a personal weather station. He's got a Davis Vantage Pro, and he's got it connected to CWAP, the CWOP. But is there anything is there more equipment that people can get, or more that they can do to help out?
Well, yeah, and I'm trying to think, and I can check with we have an observing program leader at my office that handles all the data collection and information. We do have some folks who provide temperature information, and those do get into our products and get into our maps. At my forecast office, like I said, the rainfall information goes in there, but we do temperature information, highs and lows as well. So, and then that we put into a GIS map and color it, and so it's out there for everyone to see and use. So I would say to see if you can contact your local National Weather Service office and see what they can provide. If you have other information, we are always looking for more data, and we really appreciate any information that we can get. So at least from my forecast office. So I would say go on and try to find your local National Weather Service office, contact them, and they'll put you in touch with the proper person who handles the data collection at that office, and can maybe give you some ideas as to what other help you can give us. But we definitely appreciate that.
Great, and I'll just add my own plug to that. Those CoCoRaHS observers who want to take it to the next level can look into getting an ET gauge to measure evapotranspiration. That's a neat piece of data. But if you don't even want to purchase additional equipment, we've been promoting recently the condition monitoring report, and that's been a fantastic extra data for the national drought mitigation folks. So. One more question just popped in here, and then we will be wrapping things up. It seems, John asked, it seems like those who decide when the conditions are right for controlled burns in our national forest, and he feels often wrong, leading to fires that get out of control. What role does the Weather Service play in these issues? And he's in Flagstaff. Okay, well, that's definitely a prime area for forest fires and out of control forest fires. So what we do from a Weather Service perspective, we do daily pre-suppression forecasts that provide information on mixing height transport winds and ventilation rate, and the potential for dangerous or favorable conditions to conduct burns. You probably, most of you are aware, there are controlled burns that have to be done, and they like to pick ideal days for those. We try to do our best job with the forecast. Obviously, we always strive for 100% success, but alas, that is not always the case. Sometimes the forecast, the transport winds might be a little bit too strong. The mixing heights might be a little low. It might trap smoke a little more than we expect. So there's definitely a balancing act with our forestry partners and their needs, and they're a dedicated group of people. I mean, they will get our forecasts. They put in spot forecasts, and we will do pinpoint forecasts for their location that they're doing their burn at the time they're conducting the burn. And but so many times they'll follow us up, and we'll actually talk to them, and we'll talk about the possibilities. We'll say, well, this is what our forecast winds are. It could be this. Or we'll say our confidence is very high, or it's not as high because we have this front that's moving into the area, or a trough that's developing. So there are many different factors that go into their decision making, and they weigh those factors, and you try to be right 100% of the time, and sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. But we're always trying to do the best, and some of these controlled burns need to be done to prevent larger problems down the road. So sometimes they look for days that might be favorable to do so, and that's when those get conducted. And yeah, sometimes the forecast things happen. Like I said, the atmosphere is a crazy thing. We are always trying to tame it and always trying to understand it, but we're not perfect, and despite our best efforts, and so we definitely try to make sure we balance the needs of our users with make sure everyone's safe, and doing the best job that we can all the time. Great. Thank you, Gail, so much. This has been a fantastic webinar. We've really appreciated your time here. We're going to close things out here. So, folks, if you can mark your calendars, and please join us for our next webinar. It should be coming up sometime in January. We actually are currently working out the details, and those should be posted to our website soon for the exact day. Finally, when signing off today, please make sure to take that survey that pops up on your screen. It really helps us out. And so until January, this is Noah Newman for the rest of the CoCoRaHS headquarters team saying so long for now, and we wish you all a good afternoon. Take care.